And there we go. Good evening, everybody. We've beat the YouTubers. We're live before they're on commenting, which is a rarity.
Yeah.
And they're probably all sitting outside in the back garden having barbecues and stuff. So
I know. I can imagine everybody's just going to be avoiding sitting in watching this and just sitting outside with gin and tonics.
I don't think so. I think our guest tonight has got a good pool that we will have some ardent whiskey fans probably sitting with their laptops out in the back garden, driving their wives crazy because they'll be thinking they'll be or their husbands. There could be ardent whiskey fans out there that are women as well, of course.
I know.
Yeah,
just to put your foot in it there.
I really did. Yeah, let's quickly gloss over that. I think now it's such a careful thing you have to say now that normally you just brush it off as just a kind of turn of phrase, but now people pick up on it so much. So whatever your gender, I hope you're enjoying your whiskies and maybe enjoying the barbecue with the Blether on in the background. So I do hope that you're joining us. If you're watching later on, maybe you're going to come back in after the sun goes down and join us in the evening. Welcome and thank you for joining us later on. Let us know what's in your glass for everyone who is watching us. We've got Willis saying hello. Good evening, Willis.
Hi, Willis.
Willis is coming back to join us for our Highland Academy in September, so we will be enjoying his company very soon. I can't wait to see you again, Willis. And he's on the water, the good old H2O tonight.
Keep hydrated.
Dominic's husband, wife, and bicycle are all not barbecuing tonight. So good stuff. Rick, good evening to you. We are at the other end of the day, as usual, from Rick from San Francisco. He's watching on YouTube. Hopefully you're getting as good weather as we are. We were up to about 27, 28 degrees today.
Yeah, it was hot today.
It's great. You guys are lucky my top has stayed on for the weather.
Well, likewise.
Right. Moving on. Kat, what's in your glass?
Well, I have two things, not in the glass at the same time. I have, starting with, I never do it the right way, that way. So I've got Lochlea and it's the Laphroaig edition in honor of our guest tonight. So I'm going to start with that.
Nice.
What have you got?
I'm going to pour the our barley, the core expression from Lochlea, and I'm going to open. This is my purchase today. Is the cask strength, the batch one. So we'll do a side by side comparison.
Nice
on that. So yes, Rick, it has become a very different Blether. But don't worry, we will not get. You will not see any more skin than what you're seeing just now.
Well, it's always Rick that brings the conversation downhill anyway.
He does, yeah. Dominic is on the Benriach 22-year-old peated edition. That's a PX finish. Wow. That is quite a dram, Dominic. I remember the first edition when it came out was pretty superb. Only issue he has is it's not Benriach, but the Benriach, which is a bit up itself. There's a lot in a word, isn't there, that can change the whole idea of a whiskey. Well, guys, let's bring our guest on because let's say you're not here to listen to us talk about taking our tops off and random things like that. We are here to talk whiskey, and who better than John Campbell of the Lochlea distillery. Good evening, John. How are you?
Hi, Mike. Hi, Kat. Yeah, I'm good. Really good. Looking forward to the Blether this evening. So, yeah.
Thank you for your
time. I'm glad you're still here after that introduction, actually. You could have been forgiven about thinking, what am I getting into? Let's say.
Not yet. So.
Maybe when the tops come off, that'll be it. We're like, you'll lose your internet signal.
Yeah, I would have maybe done that in the background, but it would scared too many people away as well. So no.
You got a good tan there, though, John.
Yeah,
You must be getting good weather down there.
Yep. No, it's been really nice now for probably the last 3 weeks. So, and warm. So, kind of just creeping up every week. So, it's been kind of like 22, 24, 25, and now it's kind of 28, 29 this week. So, yeah, really nice. Good, really good weather because we've been getting bottlings ready down at Lochlea. So, that really helps if the weather's good because we get them ready at the distillery. So, having the space outside is very helpful.
So you bottle on site?
No. We prepare the bottlings on site and then we send them to CBG in Cumbernauld. They do a bottling for us. But we've basically sent away two. We've sent away Harvest, which is the autumn season for us. So that's a big sherry bomb. And then this week we've been getting another big batch ready of barley, which is what I've got in my glass as well.
Oh, that was the next question. What have you got in your glass? So yeah, Lochlea, an exciting kind of venture for you. I was going to ask you how far down the line of the Lochlea process getting the first whiskey. When did you get that first introduction, or when were you kind of tasked to come on board?
Just before that. So basically did the last bit of that. So did the kind of blending bit. The kind of team had already chosen the cask style and how it was going to be. So it was a kind of bourbon double matured into Pedram and the sherry butts. And so it was just about getting the casks sorted out really for that and choosing what we thought were the best ones. So it was just, I started in November and the bottling was done pretty much within 2 weeks. And then because we wanted to launch on Burns Day in 2022 because there's a link at the distillery to Rabi as well. So yep, we had a nice deadline there. So it was in at the deep end, but good.
So did you get any break between finishing up at Laphroaig and starting up at Lochlea? Was it just straight into the deep end?
Yeah, no, I finished on Friday night, and then basically we went to the Chemical Brothers at Hydro, came out with a few of the Laphroaig team. We went to Chemical Brothers at Hydro, and then had a slow Saturday, I guess is the best way to say it. And then, it started on the Monday and just straight into getting bottling ready. So it was a change. So it was a big change, huge change. So it was as good as the rest.
Yeah, I guess you're a bit in moving house and the whole thing as well at the same time. I guess moving to the mainland, you've been quite full on.
Yeah, that bit was okay though because I've had this flat in Glasgow for about almost 6 years. So I kind of had that here, but I was in a tied house at Laphroaig, so staying on site. So I have a house on Islay. So basically, the last week was ramming everything from Laphroaig into the other house. So I've still got a room in that house full of stuff I haven't sorted out yet. So yeah, maybe try and do that in August this year when I'll be home for probably about 8 to 10 days, hopefully. So that's the task for August.
Right. Keeps you on your toes, I suppose. You think you're going home for a wee break and a holiday, but I doubt you'll get much of that if you're kind of still moving house.
I know, it's just going through the stuff more than anything else. Because we got a lot done. Barry was helping me, the manager now at Laphroaig. He was helping me flit at nights and my wee brother and stuff like that. So it was all good fun that last week.
Because I was going to say as well. So you've kind of come into Lochlea, very new, young distillery, one of many kind of great new distilleries, off the back of having run the good ship Laphroaig, which is 200 years plus. What's the challenges now for you to kind of get this new legacy underway, and hope that Lochlea is still celebrated in 200 years.
Yeah, good one. It's the polar opposite of Laphroaig in so many ways. It's size-wise, like Laphroaig's the biggest peated single malt on the planet, versus now you're going to somewhere where nobody knows the style, nobody knows really who you are. It's unpeated as well, apart from the ploughing, which you've got the cat, which happens to be in Islay casks.
Well, that's why I chose it. I thought it's just the two sides of John in a glass.
Yeah, I don't think legally I'm allowed to say that, but
it's fine. I am.
So yeah, you still work for the company. You're good.
Oh no, wait! I'm probably not. Gloss over. It's
so,
fine.
Yeah. First you took the casks, and then they took the manager. I think is how they planned it. So yeah.
As long as you weren't sent over in a cask, it's fine.
Yeah. You never know, John. You might have a visitor centre staff as well coming over to you as well.
let's just keep going. Gloss over. Move on.
No, it's good. It is good. So yeah, no, it's so different. It's just like Laphroaig will do what Lochlea does in a week every 8 hours. So it's a different scale completely. So like Lochlea works 8 to 4 Monday to Friday. We do 1 mash a day. It's a 2-ton mash. We'll get a 10,000 litre wash back out of that. It's wooden wash wax versus stainless steel at Laphroaig. So, and it's just as you said, it's like the job at Laphroaig is don't muck up, whereas the job at Lochlea is basically like realise the potential.
Yeah.
So that's it's a totally different ball game. Happy about that as well. It's been a real challenge, and I guess that's like, why do you leave Laphroaig? It was tough. It definitely was, especially being an Islay as well. But it was just, I guess, reflection during COVID and really just thinking, am I going to do this for the rest of my life, or am I going to try something different? And wasn't looking, and then Lochlea knocked on my door and asked, what do you think? And I kind of looked, met the owners, liked them. I got on really well with the owners, and then it was just a case of weighing it all up, making the big decision. But like since I've left, that's over 18 months, 19 months now. So happy that Barry's got the job at Laphroaig, really happy about that, because he was the assistant distiller when I was there. Laphroaig will be awesome. Laphroaig will be amazing for another 200 years. So it's all fine that way. I guess I don't miss Laphroaig. I miss the relationships, definitely, because I was there for so long. So it's just the people, really, that you miss and the relationships, because fine, Laphroaig's going to be awesome for another 200 years.
It must be nice to start with a blank canvas almost, because Laphroaig's very iconic for what it is. I guess with a new distillery, we've got a bit more scope to kind of play around, push the parameters, kind of change things up a little bit, maybe.
There is, but like equally as like each bottling, you are basically representing yourself as well and trying to build that reputation. So it's really important that we don't go too crazy as well, and that we try and lay the foundations. We will try different things, and we are trying different things with the seasons for us. But equally, it's really important we get our barley laid down, and then we get the cask strengths laid down, and we just keep understanding. People understand what the character of Lochlea is. And when I started at the distillery, I interviewed everyone basically and tried to get to that's the nub question, like what is Lochlea, who is like, what's their character, what's the spirit, how does it behave, all of these things. So I tried to really push the people that were working there into doing that, because once you know what the spirit's like, you can work your way back through production, and just like put all the wee cogs in place so that you end up producing what we should be. So that was, I guess, the way to look at it, kind of practical, but like I'm just basically using my experience now, because I know the stages in each part of the production. That if you're wanting like a really fruity kind of cereal, oily whiskey, what you need to do.
Yeah. So Laphroaig, Lochlea would have had the distillery in place. They were producing the spirit before you joined the team. They had the cask. They selected the casks. So they obviously had an idea of what they wanted to produce. So have you come in and kind of tweaked little bits here and there to finesse the spirit going forward, or are you just
more fine tuned? Nothing's changed that much, I would say. We're fine tuning things just to try and elevate the flavors that the team thought would be really important. So we're just trying to elevate everything and build the depth. Always push on depth of flavour, because that's how I've been trained. That's how it's been ingrained in me since day one. Like even for Laphroaig, yes, Laphroaig's a big, peaty, powerful whiskey, but it has so many layers below that, so it has depth, and that's why people like it, because almost the stages to you liking Laphroaig can be quite long, but equally once you've been drinking Laphroaig for a while, it still surprises you with what it can be as well. So like that's definitely something that's been ingrained in me through that process at Laphroaig. So like we're just basically doing that at Lochlea too, just building that depth, doing things that'll kick in 10 or 15 years as well. So a couple of wee changes there, but and it's all just about building that depth.
So things like you've got your like clear wort. No, I was gonna say you've got your clear wort, and you've got your like two types of yeast and things. So I guess it's all. Are you trying to make quite a light, fruity whiskey? Is that sort of like your flavour profile?
Yeah, no. I guess the remit is to provide a really approachable, kind of fruity, cereally, and kind of slightly grassy whiskey. So we have. What did we do? We used to do like 2 yeasts, 2 spirits. We just 1 spirit now, 1 yeast, and more of a kind of fruit forward yeast. We use now, so that was one change, just to kind of really accentuate that fruit. Fermentations haven't changed at all. More clear wort as well to help get the fruit in the fermentation. Slow down first distillation, the wash, because that to me that's the one that defines the flavour of the spirit. So we just slowed that down to really accentuate the kind of these esters we've created in the wash back, and then so fruit, that'll turn into fruit, and then lifted the cuts up a bit, so less of the kind of grassy, heavier, oily flavours in, so a bit lighter, just as you say, and just kind of really making sure the copper contact's there as well, just so that we get these nice sulfites in the liquid as well. So that's it. It's tweaking. It's not wholesale changes at all.
You make it sound so easy.
I know it does, but it is. It's like the little wee changes that makes a difference. You know, when you think you've got that 3 basic ingredients, but everybody just tweaks little bits and little points, and it just all kind of adds up to making an individual whiskey.
Yeah, no, like there are so many variables in each part of the process.
Yeah,
there are so many variables, and then you've got the casks at the end of that too. So it is about trying to kind of build these platforms, and it's just about repeating thereafter. But that's why there's so many distilleries, and no 2 are the same. It's just because
Because was it Laphroaig or was it Lagavulin? One was a complete copy of the other. Was it the old distillery manager left one and said, "Well, I'm just going to. I know all your secrets. I'll build." I can't remember which way around it was. And built the second distillery, but couldn't replicate it. But was it Lagavulin was the second one? I think was it Laphroaig was the first.
Yeah, it was a malt mill. It was called. So
Yeah.
they built malt mill to basically replicate Laphroaig because they used to trade Laphroaig in the mid 1800s.
Yeah.
And then when it was, forget my Laphroaig history now. This is really poor. It wasn't Alexander. It was Sandy, I think, who then became the owner. He wasn't of age, so Mackie Lagavulin did all the distribution, etc., because it was just for blending at this point generally. And then when he came of age, he decided to take the company back, and so Mackie thought, okay, I'll just build my own Laphroaig and make my own. Built malt mill, and then, as you say, took the distillery manager and tried to make his own Laphroaig and couldn't do it. So yeah, they made a film about that as well, didn't they? Like Whiskey Galore, I think. Was that? What's it? Something.
The Angel's Share.
The Angel's Share was about malt.
The cask that they found was a cask of malt mill. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So that was the
distillery.
Trying to copy Laphroaig.
Yeah, it's quite nice. So and I'm reading a book from David Broom just now. That's The Sense of Place. It's looking at how where the distillery sits can have an influence on the spirit, as opposed to terroir, which is kind of a whole different conversation. But so you could lift a distillery on Islay, put it in the centre of Scotland, and do everything exactly the same. But what's going to come out of that distillery is likely going to be completely different. Do you think there is something in the place or the location of the distillery in terms of the spirit?
No, I totally do. There is definitely what I've learned on Islay, like, because we would even maturing where it's matured definitely helps with the sense of place as well. Because we would mature Laphroaig in the mainland and then on Islay, and the on Islay stuff was different. It's just different. It's a different climate on Islay versus, say, Glasgow, where it's generally probably warmer in the summer, but there's always a wind. So that wind probably affects everything on Islay in the maturation. So, yeah.
Dominic, who's watching on YouTube, has pulled me up for reading Dave's book for the last few months. I don't think it's quite a few months. It's maybe 3 or 4 weeks it's taken. I don't have a lot of time to be sitting reading. Yeah.
It hasn't got many pictures in it, has it?
It doesn't. It's a lot of it. Actually, no, it does. It's got a lot of pictures in it. In big text like this. It's a big book.
And I think even like that sense of place thing is just like the Islay whiskies are made of the ingredients. So even like if you go back originally, like Lochlea unpeated, Campell would have been unpeated, Bunnahabhain unpeated, Bumor in the middle of the island. So if you're going top to bottom, they were all unpeated at the top. Bumor was medium peated, and then you do 3 kind of heavyweights down the bottom. So if you look at the island in general, it's more arable up the top. It's kind of starting to get peaty and Bumor, but as soon as you go south of Bumor, it's all peat beds.
Yeah.
So like the distilleries do basically feel like they taste like the area they're in, I would say, on Islay as well. A lot like everyone does a peated version nowadays. Pretty much on Islay. But like it would be the same in Speyside, like all of these distilleries would have started off just using the local ingredients, etc. So they do have that kind of sense of place built into their DNA, I would say.
Yeah.
It will change, everything changes slightly through the years, whether with efficiencies, legislation, whatever, that changes distilleries. So but I still feel that sense of place and the kind of undertones of that are really important to all of the distilleries.
I suppose that goes right. So taking Lochlea as an example, when you're discussing, or when the owners were discussing what kind of spirit they're going to use, I think Dr. Jim Swan was involved in the startup of Lochlea, if I remember right. Yeah. So that conversation still shapes where they get the barley. Are they going to do peated, unpeated? All that kind of conversation has to happen before the distillery is even built, I guess. What kind of cask are they going to eventually use as well?
Yeah, no, and definitely that's something we are working on more and more to try and understand, because we do, well, the barley's grown in the field next door. So, like, what does that mean? Airshed barley versus East Coast barley? We don't know, because we haven't used kind of East Coast barley
Right.
as yet. We might do that experiment to try and find that out, what the difference is. And then we mature everything on site as well. So, like, even the Airshed Valley that we're in, versus like the Clyde Valley where I stay, like, we go over the Fenwick Moor every day, a 35-minute drive to work, and the weather in Glasgow can be different to the weather in Ayrshire, and vice versa. It's just whatever's happening in the valley. So, and we're not that far away from the sea, probably about a 20-minute drive. So the weather will come from Troon right up the valley, and we're kind of roughly getting towards the top of that valley.
Yeah. Because you know the weather coming in from that Atlantic is completely different from the weather coming in on the East Coast from the North Seas. It tends to be a little bit warmer on our side, I think, and that's what makes the barley kind of grow a little bit easier over with us. Different kind of barley growth.
It's a bit drier over here as well. That's why we end up with so much barley.
Yeah, no, totally. So yeah, we're trying to find all these things out. We're only basically 5 years in now, though, so it's very hard to measure kind of eggs with eggs, but we will find that out eventually and understand what Ayrshire means, and that kind of sense of place, as you put it, which is quite good. I feel like what that Lochlea's sense of place is.
To do 100% of your own homegrown barley for each production, though, that's what you do, right? Like 100% of your barley. That's pretty impressive. How many acres of barley are you growing there?
225-ish, and we get about 2.5 tons, so that'll give us about 600 tons of barley, 480 tons of malt. So we are working 48 weeks of the year at 10 tons of malt.
Okay. Is it always the same type of barley you're using, or is it like a laureate, or?
It's laureate, yep. Haven't played about with that either. Again, like, there are so many variables there as well, Kat. So like again, even at that start, like, we could play about so much with that. Even like, I would, like, to whatever level of geekiness you want. There are fields south facing, there are fields that are north facing. So like, they will produce, like, they're just warmer if they're south facing. So like, the barley grows faster in these fields. So like, that might make a difference even to flavour. So yeah, I think it's too soon to do all that level of detail, but maybe one day we will just show people what even each field could do.
Yeah. Do you look at, when you're producing the harvest, for example, that heavy sherry or the ploughing, which is because ploughing, it's not a peated whiskey, is it? It's the casks that are excited that gives it a peated. Do you look at different cut points for that to influence the flavour to match the cask, or is it the same spirit going into all of these?
Yeah, no, it's the same base spirit. We are basically just using the same spirit and using different cask styles for the season. So if you think about sowing, which is the spring, we use basically that's be first fill bourbons for that, kind of something that's kind of lighter and fresher. The harvest, which is the summer season, will be port forward, so kind of nice, kind of ripe fruit flavours coming through in that one. Then fallow, when the ground, there's nothing happening with the ground, is into kind of October, November. So big, that's the kind of the sherried kind of whiskey at that time of year. And then ploughing is January, right in winter now. So something kind of nice and peaty and powerful to kind of help get you through these short days in January.
And I chose to have that on the hottest day of the year. So
no, it's a good whiskey though. So it's quite. It's not like, it isn't an Islay whiskey.
No, not at all.
You can taste the Islay whiskey in it. It's a Lochlea, and if you know your Islay whiskies, you can absolutely tell which distillery the casks came from. So I'm trying to make sure that happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that concept though. Like you're kind of taking us through the farming year because obviously you're working farm distillery. So you're taking us through the farming year with each release you do. It's really clever. Even like the sort of colours of labels kind of hint to, the soil or the sunsets, or it's a lovely brand story. Because you could have gone
Yeah,
to
no,
full blown Robbie Burns and been all like tartan tammies and to a moose, but you've hinted at that in some of your brand story, but you've kind of gone on the farming side of thing, which I really, really like. I'm a farmer, so I really like that.
no, and I'm a farmer's son too, so I try and keep as far away from it as possible. Although I was saying at work today though that like I posted a picture of barley the other day on Instagram and like turning into my dad, I kind of put in one of the hashtags. So like, but
it was a proper farmer post. I could just picture you walking through. You'll be roguing the oats by like late summer. You'll be out there pulling them all out.
Yeah, no, I'm not. So nothing wrong with being a farmer, but like no, I try to run away from that as fast as possible.
It's a certain breed, isn't it, to do it?
No, you just like I didn't see the point in working 18, 19 hours a day for no money. So
yeah,
just
that is
like
the reality of it.
I'm not sure about no money. Every farmer I've met, it's not they're trying to get rid of it, but they've got plenty of it.
Yeah, no, you're just so tired as well.
Career.
It's rich in life, poor in cash.
Poor in pocket. Yes,
Yeah. Definitely. We're just going to jump on to a couple of questions coming in from the guys at home. Rick, right early on, is asking, John, do you miss the ocean air on a daily basis?
Right, yeah. This is the one thing. It's the one thing I really miss is not seeing the sea. And it's hard to explain that, because it's just been in my subconscious probably for 40 odd years. So like the sea has just been there. So like when I go back to Islay, it's so calming. I find the sea. Like when you look at it, and it's almost kind of, you go into a wee trance with the sea. That's how it works for me. So like, and it's just usually there in the background all the time, or it has been for most of my life. So that's the one thing I do miss is the sea and the nice kind of cooling breeze coming off it.
I totally get that. I moved over here from the Isle of Ling. So my youngest has grown up with just seeing the sea. So like after school, we would just go down to the sea, or you go swimming, or you would just jump in a boat and go fishing. So actually having to get in your car, pre-plan that, and go and find the sea. Like, yeah, you're just kind of lucky in the West, really, aren't you?
Yeah. No, well, weather like this, Islay is awesome. It's just like any kind of West Coast island. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
With weather like this. Yeah. Can be quite brutal in January and February.
But up here complain about the wind. I'm like, wind? I've got my washing out. Like, sort yourself out. This is nothing.
No, it's the snow, isn't it? I worked up north in 2001. I worked like when Ardmore was changing from coal to steam. I was kind of involved in that project, which was really interesting as well. Worked at Glendronach, worked at Tormore, and I worked at Milton Duff just during that kind of period, just to try and get the heather out of my ears, I guess. That was just like snow though, like digging yourself out in the morning, digging yourself back in at night. It was just like, that nearly broke me in January and February up there. But like, it's just different, isn't it? Like, it's for a small country, Scotland, and probably not that far geographically between Aberdeenshire and Islay. The weather is total opposite. As you say, it's kind of drier and kind of sunnier, and generally in the summer, definitely drier, and it's more like the weather moves through so fast in Islay, like compared to the East Coast, where it can set in for days.
I used to get about 110 inches of rain annually where I was over in the West, and then over here you get about 30 to 40 inches of rain annually. So like, it's a massive difference.
Yeah, and it's not that far as a crow flies. It's just not that far. It's amazing.
I think that's why a lot of kind of hill walkers come to Scotland for the experience, and it's not because our hills are any harder or bigger or whatever. It's the climate change. It's the weather conditions. the experience of one day, you know, 1 minute you're walking in the boiling hot sunshine, you think, oh, this is going to be a cake of a walk, and then 2 minutes later it's lashing with rain and you can't see 3 feet in front of you. It's just that ultimate change. I think it's Billy Connolly always, he said, if you don't like the weather in Scotland, stick around for 5 minutes.
No, it's true. And like, especially in like, I find that like sometimes it sets in Glasgow for a few days, which can be good or bad. But in Islay, I just pushed through so fast. Like even like if it was started off like a bad day, you knew fine it wasn't going to stay all day. It would just push through. Even by lunchtime or something, the weather can be totally different. Totally different.
I was just love when the sea horror came down and like everything would disappear for about 10-15 minutes and then it'd just be glorious sunshine again. I would love that.
Yep.
Yeah. We're answering some more questions. I'll be just reading all night.
Friday, we're going to have like a 10-minute Dominic session here on YouTube.
Loads of
I guess there's one we've already answered. Do you have plans to influence the direction? We've kind of talked about your tweaking there. This is an interesting question because we've spoken to quite a few new distilleries in the past, probably most recently Angus and Johnny, who are starting up the Clythe distillery. One of their kind of key USPs, I suppose, or key kind of what am I trying to say? What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of direction is this heritage barley, long fermentation, old school style of whiskey.
Direct firing, fronted by Gordon Grant himself, who I think you're working with too, John.
Yes.
So John's asking, is this market getting crowded because every new person wants to go back? It's almost like it's no longer a new thing to want to do this yeast experimentation, heritage barley, old school style. I mean, it's obviously going to be popular because that's what a lot of guys are talking about, the days of old, and can we replicate that? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Big answer to this one, I guess. So I think like generally every 100 years we would have a revolution in Scotch whisky. So if you go like say like Laphroaig, the early 1800s, and then you go to like say Ardmore, so like late kind of 1800s, early kind of 1900s. There's another revolution then. There's another one now, I would say, in Scotch whisky. Mm. I think every time a distillery starts up, they'll try all these things. I think whether it was the 1800s for Laphroaig, 1900s for Ardmore, or the 2000s now with Lochlea, they'll all do the same things. It's kind of like us. Like you like as you're growing up, as a teenager, you try all the stuff. You try piercing your nose, getting tattoos, you dyeing your hair, whatever. You don't have a sense of who you are yet. So I think every distillery will do this. The good thing you're seeing right now is that a lot of these distilleries are like Laphroaig is 200 years old. It's your grandpa now. It knows exactly who it is. Yeah. It's sitting in his armchair and it's going, well, if you don't like me, that's your problem. Whereas like the new guys are all trying different things, maybe trying to kind of bring in different bits and pieces of heritage, etc. Yeah, and a lot of way to bring in innovation is kind of through the past as well. So like nostalgia will play a big part in this as well. So I don't know kind of what it was like when you were a kid, but it never rained in Islay when I was a kid in the summers. So nostalgia plays a big part in everyone's kind of life. Yeah. The music was better when I was a teenager too. So like all of these things into it, it's just like nostalgia is a strong emotion in all of us. So if you think you're kind of replicating what's kind of happening in the past, then people buy into that, I guess. So yeah, I think there's a combination. I think it's really interesting as well. So I just think it's like there are, and we will find out some interesting things. I don't think some of the traditions of the past can't be replicated. Just because technology is different nowadays, and you don't get that technology anymore. So, sorry, we're just getting tea ready behind me. A wee bit as well.
I was just thinking, is that the wife setting the table? Is it?
No, it's just making a noise. So
do you think that some of these older ways have benefits to the whiskey? So like things like direct firing, things like sort of old yeast strains, things like heritage grains. Do you think they add a benefit to the whiskey? They talk about like that sort of old style waxy feel, the oils, the sort of heavier spirit, the sort of 70s sort of decade. Do you think there's any sort of do you think that's part of it? Some of these old ways are coming back.
And it's almost like I think just because like that was almost the birth of single malts, I think, in the 70s, kind of 60s, 70s, 80s. And a lot of these distilleries it's become more commercialized nowadays. So like a lot of these distilleries were releasing the best whiskey as single malts. Some not so good, like it was very variable, but like the top notch stuff was amazing. And it was due to a lot of the practices that were taking place at the time. So like maybe the yeasts, maybe the direct firing, all of these things. So like I'm happy people have gone after that, I guess, because I would love to taste whiskey like that as well. I've done a lot, in the US, they'll have more stuff like this. So I've worked at the George Washington Distillery as well, producing a single malt there for the 100th anniversary of the Scotch Whisky Association. And that was just so cool. It was basically buckets you would fill in the stills with. The mash would just like with a big paddle. It was really like going back to the 1700s. So I think all of that's really interesting. I think like if we can harness some of these practices of the past, that would be awesome, because I think people will be interested in that. So like it's almost like a different category though, isn't it? Like you're getting so many layers within single malts now as well. So like to me, who really likes single malts and really into that level of detail, I think it's really cool. I'm really interested and really excited about that.
I guess, as you say, that kind of 60s, 70s, not only was single malt becoming popular, but technology was advancing. We're seeing the malting factories kind of pop up, and it was far more economical. And I guess that kind of spun off the popularity. Single malt was becoming a big thing, so people were like, we need to make more of it. How can we do this cheaper? How can we do this faster? Yield became very important, and we kind of lost that individuality of a lot of distilleries, not all of them, but a lot of them. And now we're kind of looking back to how we did things old school. We're looking at sustainability. We're looking at net zero, these kind of things. And that's driving people back to, well, hold on, let's maybe spend a little bit more, because the technology is there to do these same things maybe a bit cheaper than it was in the 50s, 60s. It's not so labor intensive. And now we can say, well, let's go back to that and say, this is our niche, because it's easier, it's cheaper, it's not cheap, but it's cheaper, I suppose, than it would have been back then. The technology is there to be able to go back and look at this. Not a marketing side, but a production side of things that we lost a little bit on the way, in that aim to make more whiskey rather than making quality whiskey.
And I think this is a tough one as well. It's just because like 200 years of progress. So like with these other distilleries, and not enough liquid to go around, so you can absolutely see how they've ended up where they've ended up. So in 27 years at Laphroaig, we never had enough liquid. So like you try, like there was no deliberate kind of commercialization of anything, but it's just like we need more liquid all the time. And whatever we were doing, so let's say planning 10% growth, sales would grow at 17. So like you would have to just, like, it was all about the 10-year-old. You just ended up focusing on the 10-year-old because you couldn't cope with the growth in all the other areas. So like it was very focused on the 10 for Laphroaig and just try and keep that one going at least. So that, because that was the most popular. So like,
did that influence the releases of things like the quarter cask or the select as being non-age statements? Was that kind of behind that thinking, well, let's get a core range where we're not too worried about the age, it's more flavour led? Or
so no is the answer, to be honest, with Laphroaig, because quarter cask was just an interesting experiment. It happened like there was 11 distilleries and allied distillers in 2000. And there was these casks, and we were just looking at cool things to do. And this quarter cask was originally used one on each side of a pack horse in the 1800s. And we thought, oh, we'll try it. Then it used to just sit in the bars of Glasgow, and like the liquid would go down and the whiskey would change. So when we kind of learned about this, we thought, oh, well, we'll try them. And we tried them at every distillery and allied distillers. It only worked in 2, and that was Laphroaig and Ardmore. So the other distilleries just couldn't take them. So, and even Laphroaig, it took 4 years to get them to work where you could understand it was a Laphroaig, but it was just a twist. Okay. So because basically what we did, we started off and we put 10-year-old Laphroaig into a quarter cask, left it for a year, poured it out, and you'd have been as well tuning this table. It was just so woody. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. So it took variations, and then eventually moving down years. So it ended up a 5 to 11-year-old kind of marriage of bourbons, double matured for 7 months. And that was the recipe, because the quarter cask really acted quickly with a more surface area, less liquid. So didn't plan to be there. We ended up there, and that was it. But it was about trying to show something different and something interesting. Was the general concept. Select, we were really targeting a different part of the world with that one. So that was for basically Southeast Asia. That brand was created. So it's just because we wanted it a bit sweeter than normal Laphroaig, so that you could push into Southeast Asia easier and just spread the geographic risk of Laphroaig, because a lot of the markets Laphroaig are in, like it's not in a lot, like it wasn't in a lot of markets at this point. So like if the Northern Hemisphere had a recession, we were at risk. So that was just about spreading that. So like they do have younger whiskies in them, and they could be more commercial, but they definitely weren't commercial prospects initially. It was about opening up different parts of the world with Select, and it was just a cool experiment that we thought, oh, we'll show this.
Awesome.
I think quarter cask would have been one of the first non-age statements in the whiskey industry. I don't know if it was, but 2004, it would have been one of the first ones, and it was very popular pretty much straight away.
Talking new markets, I've just seen you guys, you're in Japan now, Lochlea. Is that right? Is that your latest post today?
Yeah, no, we are. We are in 20 markets. We've moved from 15 to 20 this year. Again, we just don't have enough liquid to go faster because there are lots of other markets looking to get us. So, but yeah, no, and it's going really well in Japan.
Fantastic.
Good.
Really well.
We have Gordon Grant joining us as well. Good evening, Mr. Grant. It's like a little wee...
He was down seeing me this week.
Oh, nice. It's like a little Centauri reunion.
Yeah, that shit has. Yeah.
We should all do lunch.
Do you want me to leave? I'm not a Centauri man.
Yeah, on you go.
Sorry. It was Gordon who did the warehouse tasting at Ardmore for us, wasn't it, in the academy?
With me, as in, no, that was no, you've had George and you've had Russell and you've had Alistair.
It was George, yeah. George. So I wasn't there. I was. My son was being born at that point, so I wasn't there. I knew it wasn't Alistair who was there. But
yeah, no, we had George that day doing it for us.
George Gordon. Sorry, Gordon. we've got. I mean, that's really interesting, John. It's great to see the thought process behind a release. How it starts from that kind of seed being planted to coming and hopefully and you tend to win more than you lose when it comes to kind of special releases or different releases at Quarter Cask, for example. So thanks for that. It's really interesting to listen to. Dominic's comment again, another kind of first Friends of Laphroaig. Must have been, you're talking about one of the first non-age statements. I guess that must have been one of the first whiskey loyalty or whiskey kind of clubs, affinity pages.
Yeah, no, that was 1994 as well. So that was the year I started at Laphroaig. So, yeah, that's been hugely popular for Laphroaig. I think it's really cool. Just like some of the stuff they did with Friends of Laphroaig through, well, the last kind of close to 30 years now. So, and it is amazing the power it had as well, the pull it had. When I started at Laphroaig, you couldn't do a tour. You just you needed to basically know the manager and he would take you around. But by probably the time I left, so 27 years later, there's roughly 25,000 people come and visit Laphroaig every year from about 70 to 80 countries. So the pool of Friends of Laphroaig is unbelievable. Did all sorts of things on the plots. From did a burial, did spreading ashes.
Wow.
Yep, some just
all
like
cheery stuff.
fun stuff. Yep, on the plots. So yeah, no, it's amazing how people get attached to that wee square foot of land.
I guess in '94 there wasn't the same clamour to visit distilleries. They didn't have that kind of buzz about it, did it? That was when
single
you're
malts were just really starting to kick off then. I think, I from what I can remember, the sales of Laphroaig at that point would have been about kind of 12 to 15,000 cases, and then by the time I left, it was about 350,000 cases. So it just exponentially grown and grown and grown.
Yeah, you've done not a bad job there, John.
No, it's a whiskey. I was lucky enough to be holding the torch, and it's Paddy's turn now. So you're lucky to be at Laphroaig, I would say, or in any whiskey distillery actually. But I'm obviously more passionate about the ones I work with, for 100%, and I think everyone is, and they should be.
Can you visit Lochlea? Has it got a visitor centre?
No, not yet. The owner still stays in the site, so we're going to kick him out and start tours. But yeah, we'll buy him a farm next door or something. But yeah, not yet. If you're in the trade or the industry, you probably could get a tour. But we just can't accept the general public. We're not set up for that at all. It's a tiny site. It's not a big site, so we couldn't cope with a lot of people.
I mean, I'm not too bad at lambing. I'm all right in the tractor. So, I could I can help out and come around.
You could hold a tour as well.
Yeah, you can send me a message then. We'll get you around. How are you at harvest?
Yeah, I'll come down for Hairston. I'll come and give you a hand at Hairston.
Right, that's fine. Deal. Neil will be happy.
That's good. That's good. You've got yourself a date, Kat. Good stuff.
Fantastic.
Rick's asking, he's on Facebook, he's asking a general whiskey question. John, what's your take on the neck pour? Do you think there's a difference between the neck, that first pour coming out, than something in the middle of the bottle?
Ooh, that's a good question. I
guess it depends how long it takes you to get from the neck to the middle of the bottle.
You just stole my line there. I was just going to say it doesn't take you that long to get from that normally. You're just especially I find this with Lochlea, it's so easy to drink that it's just before you know it, you're just oh right, I better watch here. So yep. Yeah, no, I think there'll be lots. I think there's probably a part to that. Maybe there is a bit of oxidization, but I think you're like, I know like when you open a bottle of whiskey at first, like you are amped up and you're like your senses are probably at a level like you might not be for the rest of it, just for that first dram, because you maybe saved up for that bottle, or it's a release from your favourite distillery or something. So you will be truly, it's going to be a bit of that, I think, as well. But like it will change slightly, I feel, as well. But equally, like if you can keep it like in a cool closet, it shouldn't change that much.
Well, I'll tell you in a second. Right? I'm just away to open the Lochlea. I mean, there's not much of a neck on this one. It's straight into the bottle, isn't it?
No. Some people think they're 500ml bottles as well, but they're actually
Really?
700.
I was going to ask you about the bottles. They're so pretty. I think it's my favourite bottle I've got on my pathetic whiskey shelf behind me. But
before anyone else mentions it,
before no, but they are the prettiest. Is there like a thought behind it? Is there like why square and why so pretty?
Yeah, just different and kind of like secondary use. So we are thinking, like, it's definitely like the environmental angle is a big part of Lochlea as well, and trying to get like a second use for everything. So I've got kind of my bottle here too. So like, they want kind of like the glass to be recycled. The labels are recyclable, all of that, and it's kind of recycled material. There is quite a lot of advertising, like where we're from. The airshed bit is really important to the owners as well, and then like the chevrons as well, so that should mimic the tractor tires and the ducts.
Oh, I didn't even realise that. That's exciting.
There you go. So like gosh. It's all about the farm, and it's all about the kind of secondary use, because farms are generally getting like that now to everything is and should be. So yeah, we are all kind of trying
if you're going proper farm sustainability, the box should be held together with baler tow, to be honest.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'll say that to Jen, because Jen's in charge of packaging.
Pass that on.
She's Neil's wife and co-owner as well. So I'll give her your packaging feedback.
I love it, but it's lacking baler tow.
Just Michael Cochrane's asking if it's a single cask. It's not. It's the cask strength batch 1 that came out a little under a month ago. 3
years? Good question. 29th of May, I think. So that is 17 days away. So, yep. And it's a mixture of different casks.
So it's a different recipe to the our barley, isn't it? There's no SDR casks in here.
Yeah. No SDRs. And it's 69% bourbon, 31% Oloroso sherry hogsheads. So a different type of sherry cask as well.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, it's usually butts. We go for it in the barley, so different feeling. I guess this one's the oldest whiskey we've released so far as well. So it's like 4 to 4.5 year old liquids in this one as well. What we also feel as well at Lochlea at this younger age right now, there's much more, like we've talked about depth already earlier. There's much more depth in this one. There's just more layers of cask strength. This one is really, you've got to watch this one, because this one's 60.1 and it's so easy. It is so approachable. There's a lot of that kind of fruit up front, the kind of sweetness, and then like the viscosity is different in this one. I would say, like, if you've had an old barley there first, Mike, and then you go to this one, the mouthfeel is totally different. It's
really dry at the top of the mouth, but and the roundabout of tongue and underneath here is just salivating. It's really kind of coming up. It just filled the mouth with. They say there's like 2 different layers of flavor or mouthfeel at once. It's quite nutty. It's quite that dry kind of pecan nuts or something like that. There's something going on in there which is quite that Oloroso dryness, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and And what you'll find as well is it changes the next sip, and then it changes the next sip, and that's the depth. And equally, the palate, like that's the potential we feel like. So you're feeling all these things in the middle of your palate, and it just feels like a blob of flavour right now.
I guess that goes to the a little bit. Maybe there is a science effect in that neck pour, because we expect whiskey to change in the glass as it opens to the air. As soon as you pour that neck pour, there's more oxygen in there, so that's going to subtly change. So there maybe is something in that.
Yeah, no, there definitely is. I think it's a couple of things. So I think that's part of it. But no. So this one really kind of, you get more of the depth, you get more of the layers coming through.
You get more of a cereal note as well. That kind of
something we are conscious about trying to get is the cereal notes coming through, that kind of malty, kind of biscuity note that leads into these nutty flavours that you got the first time. So, and then we do want the grassy notes there, because again, it's just layer after layer of flavour. So we do want that
kind of a marzipan sweet.
It's making me hungry, for God's sake.
I know. I've not had my tea yet either, so like I'm getting hungry too, Kat.
Yeah, your tea must be nearly ready. We heard the cutlery coming. Well, you must be not too far off.
It's fine. Yeah.
I also heard the door slam, so I think he's.
That's okay. That was just Sarah's hangriness kicking in there. So,
I can sympathise.
Yeah. So I know it's fine. We're just having a kind of basically an early Father's Day, because I'm heading to Islay for the weekend.
Oh, of course.
As well. So I'll miss Father's Day. I'll be with my dad, but I'll not get my Father's Day.
Yeah. So, well, thank you very much for coming on and joining us for that.
Yeah.
No, it's not Father's Day till Sunday, so I didn't know at the time. So, yeah, it'll be all fine. It's all good.
That's a lovely dram. Really interesting. I wish we could just focus on it, but obviously you guys are here, so I'm going to focus on you for now. But I'm just getting the surface of it. It's really interesting. Really far more complex than the our barley. Much more going on there. I'm still tasting that kind of first sip, just developing. It's kind of gone really. It's almost oaky now. There's like that nice spice just sitting in the back, almost tannic, but it's not as dry as a tannin there. It's just kind of a nice little oaky note that's sitting there.
Yep.
I need to try it.
Should get orange peel at some point too. There's a lot of kind of orange at the back end, but I guess what I was talking about there is there's so many different flavours in a blob in the middle of your tongue when you taste this one. That's the potential we see as well. So like these flavours will all develop. We know we have put other flavours into the cask that are still to develop. So like that's why we're really excited about Lochlea's future, that potential, because all of these flavours are there right now. Yeah. They're only going to get better. They're only going to develop. You're going to get the cask oils that will, especially at cask strength, the cask oils are really good to, like, in older whiskies, to slow the process down for you, because that's, you're basically drinking a 4 to 4.5 year old cask strength there. So it's just going to shoot into your mouth and basically say to you what you make of that. Whereas when it's older, like all of these cask oils make it really easy to understand the depth and the layers that will come through. So they're all going to develop and like just get better and better and better. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
There's a barley sugar, you know, that sweets, the barley sugar, that's come through just now.
Yeah.
Right. I was expecting a next sip to get orange because you said, you should find orange. I expect to taste it and find that orange, but no, it's that barley sugar sweetness that's kind of prominent just now. Yeah, every sip, something else comes out. That's pretty cool.
Probably each batch will change as well. It won't remain the same recipe.
Right.
I think.
And is that going to be batch released similar to the seasonal? It's going to be an annual thing, or is it going to be when the casks are ready to be bottled? How are you going to work that?
Annual right now, but it's selling very fast as well. So I was asking this today. So decisions to be made, because our barley is the main one, though. It is the main one that we can keep available all the time. We can do some interesting things with cask strength, and it will be available most of the time, we hope, as well. And then the seasons, what's going to happen with the seasons? The recipe will change each year. Just slightly, we'll tweak it slightly.
Okay.
So, for example, the fallow we released last year, the autumn one, would have been 100% Oloroso sherry. This year it's 55 PX, 45 Oloroso sherry mix.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, again, that'll be like super sweet, super heavy, coming through as well. But like a nice balance, not all kind of PX.
Are you involved in the cask purchasing side of things as well?
Yeah, now, yep, absolutely now, yep. So, looking at that as well, and just trying to develop everything. That's the stage we're at. We are trying to keep tweaking, learning, improving all the time as well. So, I mean, we do have long-term plans for age statements, and so the seasonal releases will last for 4 crops, and then they will disappear. And then we might do a couple of interesting releases in the kind of interim year, and then we will probably start off on 8-year-old. And then just kind of see where it goes, really. Customers will help us decide. So
it's consumer driven, isn't it? Like, we're making a consumable product, so it's consumer driven, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I think you kind of just answered Dominic's question there as well. He was asking about the seasons and things, but I think that your answer covered that one really well.
Rick's come up with a great question. I think everyone wants to know. It's why we're all here. John, how was Springsteen?
I know. Like, I was waiting to try and get like a segue in to ask this. You went to see Bruce Springsteen?
No. Springsteen, that comes from. No, Barry would have done. He's a big Springsteen fan. The new Laphroaig distillery manager.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm a big Springsteen fan. No.
I mean,
well, my next question was going to be, was he better than the Chemical Brothers? So.
Maybe Rick just means in general about, like, what do you think of Bruce Springsteen?
He's a very talented man. Just not my cup of tea.
Very
last weekend, 2 weekends ago, he was in Scotland.
Yeah, he was in Murrayfield.
Yeah. He's probably one guy that I really would love to see. Big fan of his music, but obviously being in the job that we're in, weekends are not easy to get off. Dominic went to see Elton John on Tuesday. Well, Dominic, how was Elton John? We'll ask you that. We'll get some music chat in somehow. Mark's on Facebook. He's en route to Islay as well just now, so he's watching on 4G in the car. Please tell me, Mark, that you're not driving the car watching us.
Hopefully not driving.
Yeah, there's a couple of blank spots there too, so hopefully don't miss out, man.
It'll be busy over there, I guess, with tourist season, won't it?
Yeah, and it's golf I'm going over for as well. So that's still my home golf club. So
we're
playing golf all weekend. So hopefully the weather stays like this.
Yeah, I think it's meant to be good though. I think it's
the big bird watching season as well. Is it just now?
And see mum and dad. So check in with that. So got to do that every now and again too.
Absolutely. Because I was coming over. I met you at the Islay Whisky Academy in 2019. On the ferry over, I was speaking to a couple, and I assumed at the time everyone was going over for whiskey, but this was a bird watching couple going over, and they were telling me how wonderful Islay was. And it wasn't until that point I kind of looked into it and thought, it's actually one of the top bird watching destinations in the country. It's the UK that people love to go over for.
No, there's a lot of bird watchers come over as well.
I thought I just met this odd little couple who were oblivious to whiskey and think, let's go over for some bird watching. But there's a big thing for it, isn't it?
Yeah, no, there's a lot. There's lots, I guess, to do. So if you get weather like this, it's all outside. There's a lot of history in Ireland as well. So
the seat of the Lord of Isles and all that. Yeah.
Yep, not Finlagan, and then there's the Celtic Cross down the good end of the island.
Might try that with Tony, the wife, and say, we're going over, but it's not for whiskey purposes. We're going to historical and bird watching. We'll try that one. See if she lets me come back.
Yeah. Now there's surfing on the west coast as well, so a lot of people come because it's get the Atlantic right there. So yeah, no, there's lots of different reasons to go to Islay.
Good fishing.
Whiskey just helps.
Whiskey does help.
Yeah.
And I guess the draw, and I know that Fish had a really conscious effort this year, probably for the first time in maybe a long time, to make a big effort to kind of drop that whiskey festival feel and say, no, this is an Islay festival. It's really about the island, which it kind of originated as. And I guess people come over for the whiskey and then fall in love with the island, and then will come back for other things as part of that whole kind of culture. Because it's a beautiful place. You could go there, not see a distillery, or not visit a distillery. You're probably going to see one, but and still have a great time.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, and like I think that's how it happens. People visit because of distilleries in the main, but then after that, they will absolutely try and come back out with festival or kind of busy summer periods and just try and get more of the island for themselves and just get in beneath everything rather than just the quick kind of view.
Were you glad you weren't there for the festival? Did you feel a little bit of relief not being mauled by thousands?
No, I liked it. It's good. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy getting 2,000 or 3,000 people onto Laphroaig, but I liked it. Like I was just in a warehouse all day drinking whiskey. What's not to like about that? So yeah. So no, I liked it, and it was good. Like you built up relationships with people, and so they would come back every year. And so like it's one of the best bits about whiskey is just like the relationships you build all the time, and just that kind of the social aspect of it.
Do you do much of that side of things over at Lochlea? Are you out doing any of the shows, or is there somebody else at the team that does that?
Patrick, probably the most, and Emma. They're the two. But like I will be. I've just started kind of doing stuff like this with Lochlea, so I will be up. What was in Canada 2 weeks ago doing some stuff.
Wow.
So that was my first kind of international. I've done the Glasgow one so far. I can't really not do them. Around the corner from me. But yeah, not done a lot as yet, but it'll come.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, cool. We'll just say hello. Shilton is on from Milk and Honey. He's giving us a wee wave. So welcome along. I spoke to him quickly on LinkedIn last night asking if he would join us. So hopefully we could get a date set for a Blether with Shilton pretty soon.
I like you've just done that live, so he has to commit to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. he has said to me privately that he would join us. So. And also Andrew Smith from the Little Brown Dog guys. I'm not sure if he's still on, but he was on.
Well, that's my second dram. That is the Aaron in the bourbon cask that I stole from your bar the other night there.
Yeah.
So that's
their first ever release. First ever whiskey release. That was their first ever release.
Oh, is it?
First whiskey release, yeah.
That's lovely.
That's why I got you to film me opening the bottle, was because it was a special moment.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah. Yeah. And then you said at the end of it, did you film me? I'm like, yes, I did. Thanks, Grandad.
I recorded me saying that, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, it's scary how quickly technology comes on. Because I used to think I was pretty tech savvy, especially when it came to the phones and all that, but I'm really not. You should see me try to do an Instagram post. It takes about 45 minutes. And
but they're ever so good.
It's a picture of a bloody bottle of whiskey. It's not even that good.
I was really impressed with the one you did the other day for the whiskey that we don't mention because everybody has to have a dram.
The wee video. Yeah, I've learned video.
Yeah. So obviously the whiskey that I work for when I don't work for Mike seems to get mentioned every single week, and everybody assumes it's me mentioning it, but it's not. It's usually other people. So now I just flat out don't mention it. So Mike made a really cool little Instagram post with that whiskey in it. So cheers, everyone. Glengarry.
There we go. Cheers.
So are you involved with the social side of things, John, or is it just your own sort of Instagram page that you keep?
Yeah, I'm very random and Yeah, it's me, but yeah, I'm not the best either, and it can be months between posts, I guess, from my point of view. Generally, it's like I'll get tagged in a lot and stuff like that, so I'll try and support the people that are doing stuff like that. So that'll kind of keep me busy. But I know it's like I'm not great. Just not great at all. No strategy, no nothing. Just random stuff that amuses me. And people will probably think, weirdo. So
I
I'm
saw
quite
you
happy about
doing.
that.
You had videos up of floor maltings. You floor malt at Lochlea. So is that? Do you do that
Not
all
all
the
the
time?
time. Just not all the time. So yeah, I've got that experience, I guess. So like we have done a couple of in the gap year that we're talking about between the seasons, you might get a floor malted release coming out just to show you
The difference.
the difference. Floor malted versus commercial malted barley
Yeah.
feels like. So I did one at Laphroaig, only one I think, where it was 100% floor malted. And that was in the 2015 bicentenary Curtis.
Ah, okay.
That's only ever kind of 100% floor malted since the 60s or 70s.
That's cool.
That
It'd be interesting to see the difference between a commercial malt release and a floor malt release to see what it's like.
Yeah. Would I be picking up a kind of menthol note from this?
Are you back on that whiskey again?
Back into it. A little bit of water. I'm sure I'm getting some kind of menthol or minty kind of flavour coming out.
I need to get a bottle of this and try it. I'm getting really jealous
I'll
of
pull
it.
you one. You're in Saturday, aren't you? I'll take some down.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
I'm looking at Keith Duncan has just jumped on Facebook. He's apologies for his late arrival. He's been enjoying a wee dram in the sunshine. You have a mobile phone, Keith. That's not an excuse. You could have taken the phone out.
Points will be deducted from your overall total tonight, Keith. Sorry about that.
Exactly. Yeah. Rick's asking
about sustainability. Sorry, we were talking over each other. You carry on, Mike. I was just going to say the same thing.
About Rick.
Yeah, just because I was going to ask about sustainability because I know you mentioned it. It's like a passion of yours, John, that sort of sustainability and things. And Rick's asked about it as well.
Rick's a monkey. He's jumping from YouTube to Facebook, back to YouTube to Facebook. So here's two things from Rick. Two things from Rick. For the YouTubers who are watching, Rick's asking, John, if somebody had never tried a Lochlea before, what would you put them towards? What would you pour for them? And then on Facebook, he's asking, with sustainability in mind, do you know if the wooden cork toppers are from a recycled source?
Yep. So I would always put people to add barley first. So that would be the whiskey I would definitely put. It's really approachable. It's got all the things we want. It's got the wee bit of kind of spice, the fruit, the cereal notes coming through, and like nice kind of grassy notes to finish with as well. So that would be there as well. You get nice kind of floral aromatics at the back end of it too. So I would always put people towards Irish barley first because, well, if you do like it, you can buy it again. Some of the other stuff we're doing will sit on shelves and go very quickly. They're interesting and they are pretty cool, but it would always be Irish barley just so that you can, if you like it, you can get it again. Sustainability-wise, we are kind of moving. We have moved a chunk towards single site status. So like we do grow the barley, we'll store the barley on site. The only things we don't do on site are malt and bottle. Everything else we distribute from the site, everything. So basically we would be the first distillery in the Scotch whisky industry if we get these two bits done to be a single site from grain production right through to bottles out. So that would be cool. We also need a bioplant as well because our pot ale goes off site through a bioreactor right now, and then we digest it back. So that would just save more journeys. So again, just and you had talked about it earlier, Kat, about just the kind of going back to the ways where things would have been done on the site and ever managed on the site. So it's not like the 1800s at Lochlea, it totally isn't, but it's kind of like the philosophy is the same to try and get this single site and kind of totally sustainable site kind of going along. So yeah, we are just a couple of parts away from that. We would have moved forward this year, but unfortunately we had good positive problems. So we are selling much more bottles than we had planned. So our cash flow is going to fill more bottles rather than invest in the site right now. So we are having very positive problems. So otherwise we would have moved that further on.
That's fantastic.
It's great to see, and as we kind of mentioned, right, the kind of start of the program, the Blether, the show, that there is, for you guys to be able to say that in amongst this kind of plethora, this upsurge of great new distilleries, Ardnamurchan and Lindors, and the likes, the Rasse, all these guys in the Torreveig. So there is a focus on new distilleries coming up just now, and I think they're really kind of capturing the limelight. You've done very well to kind of put yourselves out there, and the proof is in the pudding that you're having to divert some cash flow into making or bottling more. So it's great to hear. In terms of your customer, do you know, is it more Scottish based, or are you? We know you've just launched in Japan, but is there anyone else you're exporting to that you've seen real spikes in?
Yeah, no, pretty much everywhere we're trying to export to is doing really well. Probably US will be a big market, or becoming a big market for us. France is a big market, just all Germany, huge market. UK is the biggest market right now. Customers are generally younger than average as well that are drinking Lochlea, and probably more females than the average single malt as well. So it's kind of younger and probably more female orientated right now.
Fab. I need to track these girls down. Go out drinking. They've got good taste. I think that's partly the way you kind of marketed it on the website. You talk about it as being like a whiskey for everyone. It's for cocktails, it's for sharing with friends, it's for any occasions, for barbecues. You're kind of making it set it up from the outside, you're making it open to everyone.
Yeah, no, and I think it is. It's really approachable too. The whiskey itself is not. It is really, really kind of just everyone should be able to try it. So that's the way, like the way it was kind of positioned to me is like by Jen and Neil is like they want people to buy a bottle, so it can't be too expensive. They want people to pull it out and to be not afraid of it, and it to be welcoming, but like and just social. So like all these things we are trying to achieve. That's attracting different percentages of people to us than what would be normal. So and I think the whole sustainability angle is attracting the younger folk, if I'm being brutally honest as well. So like there's just different things. I mean, we are quite quirky with social media because that's the only way you can really get to know us right now, because we don't have that many touch points apart from the liquid. The social media so that suits probably younger folk better as well, because they're used to kind of more of a virtual world than probably old farts like myself are. So it's just like, I think it's just the positioning right now. I think it's just who we're attracting, I guess.
I don't know how I feel about being part of a conversation where I'm talking about younger folk like I'm not part of that. It's quite sad.
You're not 40 yet, are you, Kat?
I'm a woman that drinks Lochlea. I'm in your demographic.
I remember the hearing about your stories on Sunday after your Saturday night out. So you're definitely not young anymore.
This is the first time I've drunk alcohol since that night. Gosh, no. In hindsight, I should have taken a day off the day after. Not gone to work.
So you spoke too much details there, Kat.
But yeah, no, it was a good night.
Yeah.
How are we getting on top of all these questions? There's been so many questions tonight, but we've been so busy asking John questions ourselves.
I think so. Apologies if we've missed any questions. I think there'll be some questions come through that have been answered during the chat, certainly on the production side. But I think the latest one coming in, Rick, we've kind of covered it. John, you don't have a visitor centre, but are you doing tours? We kind of touched on that. Rick, that might be when you were flicking through between YouTube and Facebook that we talked about that one. But yeah, it's we are guys. If you've got any other questions, please do give us a shout. Let us know. I'm going to ask you, John. Is one we ask quick. Two questions that I try and bring up. One, you're not drinking, or you go to a bar. You're not allowed to touch Laphroaig. You're not allowed to touch Lochlea. What kind of dram do you go for? Or what do you look for?
Depends what kind of day I've had, I guess. But I would probably lean towards a kind of chunkier one. So maybe by chunkier, I just mean like a weightier spirit. I quite like weightier spirits. So something like a...
Not necessarily cask strength, but something
no, not necessarily cask strength at all. So like, who do I like? Springbank, Mortlock, Glenfarclas, just kind of heavier spirits.
Yeah.
So, yeah, generally. Sometimes I like to just ask, like the bartenders are really like if you got a good bartender, they will just show you something different, something exciting. So, might not even be like a Scotch whisky. You might try just an interesting liquid. So try and find out a bit more about that. I'm interested in kind of lots of things, I guess, lots of different types of liquids.
Like a certain Israel whiskey or something like that. Like a milk and honey or something.
Yep. Yeah. No, I have. Actually, I know these guys really well. So they've been like, I don't know, they've been coming to Islay for such a long time. So yeah, I've known these guys just since they started. So yeah, no, and it's amazing what they're doing. Brilliant. Yep.
Yeah. And the other question I was going to ask is, I mean, you're kind of almost there. You're living the dream with being in charge of your own distillery, in so many words. But if money was no object, what distillery would you buy and have as your own? Dramatic pause.
It was.
No. What one would you want? I don't know. That's tough. Like, have to choose one.
I mean, you don't have to choose. I'm not going to put you on the spot and put a gun to your head.
I think like where am I leaning? I'd need to be an island then, because I'm from the island, and so what's an island distillery that's really good? Maybe Bunnahabhain.
Cool.
I'll go Bunnahabhain. Yeah. Good views across the Jura, like
you never have to wake up and not see the sea again.
Very underrated whiskey as well. Very underrated whiskey. So like that 18-year-old Bunnahabhain is absolutely gorgeous.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous.
So, some of their kind of Moyne releases are just fantastic. The peated stuff is.
Yep.
Yeah, I personally prefer the peated Buddha to the unpeated, but there's some good stuff there.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple of answers from people at home. Dominic would buy Bowmore mainly for sentimental reasons, but he also loves the spirit. And I think my wife would agree there. She would be a Bowmore girl. I think that would be her one.
Yeah.
And Rick would buy Lagavulin to take it away from Diageo.
Oh, okay.
John almost choked on his.
It's a big enough. You can understand why a wee bit as well, but it's like Lagavulin 16 is a great whiskey as well. Yeah, it's a great whiskey, and I like older bags. I really like older bags, like older aged bags.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. No,
it's quite interesting, kind of that whole aged Islay, because obviously the peat is part of that natural progression in the cask. It loses a bit of that peat flavour, doesn't it? And I suppose Islay whiskies, your Ardbegs, your Laphroaigs, your Lagavulins, kind of that's a big part of their marketing. A big part of their pull to customers is we're peat heavy. We're in your face with that kind of thing. Is that a reason why we tend to see less really old Islay casks, because we lose that element of it? People maybe drinking a 25-year-old Lagavulin think this is not the Lagavulin I was expecting, so they tend to.
I think it's mainly because I know at Laphroaig it's because the 10-year-old is so popular. So like if you are maturing stuff, say for a 25-year-old, and I guess the 12-year-old is going to 10, if the 10's selling out.
Yeah.
So 10 is all like, that's why I think our Beg's focus is the 10-year-old, Lagavulins is the 16-year-old. So like that's probably why you don't see much above that. Okay, because
they need the liquid for
I think even like when I was at Laphroaig, that part of it, like the whole anything above, 10-year-old was so small. It was like 5% of the total sales. Like 10-year-old would be 70%, quarter cask would be 20, select was 5, and then the other 5% was everything else.
Wow.
So it's such a small part.
Yeah. Because your Cargis releases were very popular as well, weren't they? I didn't realise they would be part of that, such a small aspect.
Yeah, that started off a problem that ended up a good thing, I guess, because we used to do single casks, for the fish, and basically all your bottles would be sold within the first half hour. So then you end up really annoying more people than you're keeping happy. So then we changed 2008 to Cargis, and then it just kind of developed from there, and it then became global. So it was Islay first, and then global from about 2011, 12. So it was good. It was good. That was the bit where you got to show Laphroaig in different angles that people wouldn't have seen before. So that's what I liked about Cargis, and selecting the casks for that would just be, you would just try and show them something different, something interesting.
Yeah. Is there plans for something similar with Lochlea, or is there a club that you can join to be part of Lochlea's journey a little bit more intimately?
Not yet. No, we do have a cask club members, but it's closed now. So 200 people in that, and that's it. So they would be the closest thing we've got to something like that. But nope, nothing, not yet.
Not yet.
We'll all come down and stake off a little bit of land outside in the Barley Park.
Yeah, in with the calves, and that's the one. But a field we don't. There's 4 fields we don't use for barley right now. One of them kind of probably isn't fit for barley because that's where the loch is.
Okay.
And then the other 3 get used for George, our next door neighbours, calves. So it's just grass fields just now, so we get fattened up in there.
Mm.
With rotational grape, like rotational crops, so there must be some years where you're going to have less barley, maybe just for repairing, replenishing the fields, I guess.
So we use cover crops. This is a big kind of so we use so basically after the harvest, there were 3 last year. We would need Neil here for this. But there was radish, mustard seed, and something else. And basically their job is to keep the soil nice and fluffy. So that when we then pull the sheep in from another neighbour's farm in probably February, March, and they just pull all the growth, the foliage down, and then we'll plough in March, hopefully for sowing the barley, end of March, beginning of April. So like the cover crops, like their job is to get it reusable and all that, digest it, that we'll have stored from the pot ale that comes back to the site will get spread in the land as well, just to give it that boost as well. And then we bring in some more chicken digest it as well, just to give it a further boost before we sow the barley. So
nice.
There's a lot of effort goes into the soil to keep it
of course.
fresh and regenerated every year.
Remember I said right at the start that you made it all sound really easy. We're getting more into the nuts and bolts of it now. It doesn't sound so easy anymore.
No, well, you don't leave anything to chance, do you? I think that's the thing about Scotch. You can't leave anything to chance. You're always trying to make things better and improve things. So that's the same way, like from small processes to big processes, I think. And it's, again, just understanding ourselves more and more, so we're improving that as well.
All sounds really cool.
It does. Rick's just mentioned he recently bought a 28-year-old Laphroaig that was the last one released with yourself as distillery manager. He's looking forward to a special occasion to open and enjoy it. Well, it sounds like a hell of a dram. And hopefully,
I think a special occasion would be inviting us round to dinner.
I think so. Flying us over would be good. Yeah. The San Francisco. It might be cheaper just for you to come to Scotland with the bottle than to fly John and myself over to San Francisco.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll cook dinner.
I mean, what better special occasion than to open the bottle in the presence of the man whose name is on there? That would be pretty cool. You must take a certain pride knowing that people are really excited about having your name on a bottle. John, how does that feel? It must be a bit surreal, is it?
It's just awkward, isn't it? Really, just you're the person in charge, so like you're responsible. But it's like it's not about you at all. It's always about, like, for me, it was always about Laphroaig, and equally represent the people of Laphroaig. So that's kind of a wee bit, but it's really, you do feel that you don't like. It's not about you. Like, again, you're just like, you're just holding the torch for that period in time before you hand over to the next girl or guy. So it's like, you do feel that, like, that kind of sense of history when you're at Laphroaig, definitely, that you're just a link in the chain, and that's it. Your job's not to muck up, and hopefully to improve a few things as you go along as well, and try and leave it like stronger. So it's weird. It is weird to see, like, because even now traveling with Lochlea, there's still lots of Laphroaig bottles floating out there with my signature on it, and so people laugh at that. So it's just the way it is.
Yeah. Is it awkward when you're standing at a Lochlea stand and somebody comes up with a bottle of Laphroaig and says, "Can you sign this for me?" No,
I don't know. It isn't, because like when I was in Canada, I must have probably sold about 40 bottles of Laphroaig too. So it's just that's what it is. It's like it's a hugely important part of my history.
Absolutely,
I still love Laphroaig. Still consume Laphroaig. You know. Responsibly, I suppose.
Responsibly, of course.
Connected to Laphroaig, it's responsibly. No, like from the island, I'll be back. I've still got lots of friends at Laphroaig, so like Laphroaig's awesome, and looking after my pension.
Oh, there you go.
I guess using a musical analogy, I suppose, you're front and center of a brand like Laphroaig for so long, and I bet you nobody can mention a member of the E Street Band who were the musical geniuses behind Bruce Springsteen. He's the name that everyone kind of goes, but without the band, the music doesn't happen. So I guess very similar kind of idea to yourself being there, or any master, whether it's Billy Walker, Rachel Barry, Jim McEwen, or any of these guys. It's all.
Yeah, nobody thinks like that. I don't know anybody that thinks like that at all. It's just part of the job. You just accept it's part of the job. So it's just, I don't know, it just comes with the territory. So you understand that. It's a conscious decision. It's a thought when you're taking the job.
Right.
Do you want to do that? And do you want that kind of part of it? But it's just, it goes with the territory. So like, it's just, you're responsible for that. And I remember like Jim McEwen saying to me, like, because like I was quite nervous about this the first time, especially when I was representing Laphroaig abroad. And he came up and like, it was just, we were in New York and it was really good to see him. It was just like, oh, right, somebody I know, this is so good. And he just kind of, he basically put me in a place and settled me down. He went, right, John, your job is to represent Laphroaig and there's nothing more important than that. And he says, and then you remember you're an Islay and there's nothing more important than that, he says. And then you're from Scotland, he says, and there's just nothing more important than that, he says. Nothing else matters.
Yeah.
And that was it. And just kind of like, it put you in your place, like you're part of something bigger than kind of Laphroaig, Islay. It's like this, you're representing the Scotch whisky industry, and it's just like, oh, right, okay, I get that. And it just settles you down, like it just like, and then just takes away all these things. And he definitely believed all of these things as well. So like, well, if somebody like that's doing that, that's what you should do as well. You follow the kind of peers.
He was is still such a inspiring guy, isn't he? Not just in whiskey, but you see as a people person as well. He just has this way of talking to you and making you believe and hang on every word he says. He's a pretty incredible bloke, and the fact that he made whiskey for so long has got nothing to do with that. I think whatever he ended up doing, he has that persona that it would have been pretty incredible.
Yeah. No, he's a good mentor. Definitely a good mentor for me.
Yeah. And he's not retired yet, really, has he? He's retired about 20 times.
I think he is this time.
It's the same with Gordon Grant. He seems busier than ever. I don't know if he's still watching, but no matter who I speak to on these Blethers, they all seem to have Gordon appearing every 5 minutes.
We need to clone him. That's what we need to do next. The world should have more Gordon Grants.
Oh, completely. I wholeheartedly. I tried to get him on the Blether, but yeah, I don't think he's a keen public speaker. But maybe one day, Gordon, we'll get you on.
Absolutely, it'd be great.
Next time he's down with you, we'll do like a joint. You'll do a joint Blether. We'll get you on together.
Yep. Deal.
Do you see yourself, John? Do you see yourself being that kind of person who is working well into their 70s?
Yeah.
In the industry, and
I'm going to be annoying people for a long time yet.
Great. Good to hear.
Yeah. No, I just like, I don't want to retire. I like what I'm doing. I really like what I'm doing. So like, I want more time at some point. I think there's lots I still want to achieve, but like, no, I like what I'm doing. So
it's that kind of industry, isn't it? That once you're in it, it's very hard to leave completely. Even if you move jobs, maybe you'll do something to keep your finger on the pulse and keep involved.
Yeah, no, one way or another. Yep, I think so.
Rick is asking, considering your history with the industry, do you have a book planned? Can we see the life of John Campbell in words?
Or a picture book for Mike, because he takes a long time to read things.
Less words the better, just big pictures.
No plans. No plans.
That's the thing, though. We were speaking to, it was David Stark, wasn't it? He was saying that he spoke to so many people and heard so many good stories, but because a lot of these people are still alive, because we're trying to protect our brands, because the stories are a little bit risky, like he couldn't print half of them. So I'm sure you've got some pretty good stories that you could not put into print.
Yep. Yep.
I love that. There's no elaboration, just
No, like, it's like I'm scared to even think about some of them. So, like, I feel like guilty thinking about some of the stories, but like, no, it's good. Like, there's always stories in whiskies.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I've been here long enough that I've seen a few, caused a few. Flavour. Yeah, yeah.
All
So,
good
like,
fun though.
yeah, no, absolutely.
John,
Fantastic.
it's been fantastic speaking to you. I'm sure the guys at home have enjoyed it, and it's been well worth sitting inside on a night like this, wherever you might be, and enjoying your banter. Maybe next time we'll dig into some of those stories that we're going to leave in a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I'll tell one if Kat tells her story about her last night out then.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's do that. I am well up for that. Yeah. We can stick around for a few minutes more.
You know what? Books are overrated, love. We'll just let that lie.
I'm fine with that too.
Thank you so much for giving up your time as well with all your family around about you. It's been great having you on. We'll need to get you back again as Lochlea kind of evolves and develops.
Yeah. No, but will do. Yeah. And no, good to have been on with you as well. Good fun.
Yeah,
nice wee whiskey. So
it's a brilliant wee whiskey.
It's a fantastic.
Yeah. Rick, when I get to halfway through the bottle, I'll tell you how it changes from the neck as well.
Yeah, I need to taste that.
It's been, it's been really, really great. We're really excited about. I mean, we've talked about Lochlea, but I think the industry is in a good place with a lot of great new distilleries coming up, and really, really centered on the spirit rather than the commercial side of things. It's great to hear somebody like yourself with all the experience you've got. Great to see you committing to something like this as well. I think it gives a lot of people faith and kind of trust in what's happening as well. So, yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much.
No,
we'll let you get your supper now.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. Take care, guys.
Take care, John. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye now. Guys at home, thank you very much. Gordon was still here. He's just saying goodbye now. So, cheerio, Gordon. And Rick, Dominic, Gordon, the rest of the guys. Tune in next week. Kat, who are we entertaining next week?
We have got Alan from the Tyree Distillery. And I'm saying Alan because I can't quite remember his.
Sure about that.
No, we do, but I thought his last name was Campbell, and now I can't remember if I'm just thinking it's Campbell because we've got John on, but I'm sure he's called John. You'll know Alan from Tyree. Do you know?
No.
Okay. Okay.
There's a good chance it's Campbell in the West Coast, though. So, yeah.
I've got it in my head that he's Alan Campbell, and now I'm thinking, I think I've just got your last name. But Tyree Distillery. Yeah. He'll be on next week.
Perfect. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all. If we don't see you in the shop or online, we will see you next week. Good night. Slange.
Night, everyone. Slange.